Hello, my name's Andrew Francis. I'm an ecologist. I'm also a keen amateur naturalist and would like to improve my ability to recognise a wider suite of species in the field. Now, in order to do that, it's very helpful to be able to find locations for things and also to understand which of the species you're most likely to see just out and about in an ordinary day in the countryside, and which ones you need to look a little bit harder for. If you target your excursions for things that are slightly harder to find, then you might pick up the commoner ones whilst you're looking anyway. So I've been working on some tools which allow me to take data from the National Biodiversity Network Gateway and to reformat it and to add extra data to it to help me prioritize what I look for and to make sense of what kind of records are available. I can't take credit for these beautiful KML files. They're produced by EarthPoint Excel to KML conversion. But what I have done is develop some tools that allow some control over the way that the symbology is automatically created from a data set, and also things like being able to use nesting within files within files, so that you can have, for instance, species within a particular genus, and you can switch these all off and on together as one, which is pretty helpful. It's basically supporting the functionality of the excellent EarthPoint website. So without further ado, I'll show you the original data. Now, there are two approaches that I'm going to demonstrate today. One of these approaches is to take a big amount of data from a pretty unselective search and just say, what's in this area, and then sort through it and find out what your priorities are, maybe by a particular area or what have you. The alternative approach is to create a list of species that you want to see, and then use that to generate a URL which you can pass to the NBN data website to create quite a detailed, quite a nuanced search that will include facilities like being able to search by a particular geographical area. So firstly, I'll show you the kind of blunderbuss approach of, this is a huge amount of data, very basic search terms. It's 10 kilometers around Edinburgh, what's there? So I have this enormous file here with 55 different fields and, wow, 623,000 records. So this is quite a lot to handle. Some of these fields mean nothing at all to me, not particularly helpful. Others are great, like when was it recorded, where was it recorded, what's the species, potentially who found it as well. It's potentially useful to know who local specialists are in certain topics. So first thing, well, I'm going to close this down and reopen it, because when I do, I will show you what it does as I open it. So there we go. So I open this up. When it opens up, it will show a little form which contains URLs that you can copy and paste into a browser, which will take you to various resources that will help you to understand how to use this and how to email me if you have any difficulties with it, how to locate the excellent EarthPoint website that I mentioned, etc, etc. So here we go. You'll see there's a little tick box at the top, see information on opening worksheet. Should say workbook really, but never mind. So you can untick that if that's annoying to you. If you want to reopen this, press Control and Shift and I. A lot of these macros, that is to say automated processes, small programs that run in here, have shortcuts such with Control, Shift and then a letter. So just going to delete this, so I'm going to take you through the whole process and show you where I go from here. So this is the original download. I like to work with this inside the NBN data reformatter. So I go to create copy, go there, and it will take a while to migrate this because it's 600,000 records. I'm just going to pause this. So here's the data. One thing to mention is if the developer tab is not visible, then you need to go into options. That will open up a dialog box. You go to customize ribbon and developer, and you tick that box. So you go to developer. Oh, another thing is when this opens up, it may ask for permission to run macros, so you should say yes, as this runs on macros. Developer macros. So there's a list of different macros here. You see I_information. That was the one that opened the box with all those URLs in when you open the spreadsheet, but you can open it whenever you want by pressing Control Shift and then I. All of these ones with an underscore after them are ones which have a shortcut key for them, but whilst you get used to the way in which the data is dealt with, it will be easier to come through this menu. So these have some fairly contrived names in some cases, such as this one, easily add data, the Z there. Now these first ones kind of run in alphabetical order, generally speaking, in how you would use them. First thing I want to do is to cut down the number of extraneous fields and remove some duplicate data. So this is just a warning to say don't do it to other spreadsheets because they don't have the right names in and things. It will make a mess. What do you want to call it? I'll just go with the original name. Might want to call it something else. Take a while to run. This is a huge data set, so if you do that on this data set, don't be surprised if it takes a while to run. It'll take a few minutes. As I say, there's about 2/3 of a million records in here. My way of thinking is this is something you can just leave to itself to run when you go through a cup of tea or something. So at some point you might see this is flashing orange. That indicates that there's actually a dialog box trying to appear. So if it's not visible to you, maybe you have two screens like I do and it's visible out of your field of view or something, just go to click on there and this will turn up. So remove duplicates. Would you like to remove all but the most recent data for each species at a given location and with the same remarks? So remarks are like comments about where it is and stuff. Tick the box if you do. So that's just because if making a map of all this data, you could potentially end up with lots of records of the same thing and the same point, and then it's just scruffy and it's harder to see what's on top of what, and it's better to remove duplicates. So I would tend to tick that one. And it will take a while. The display might go a bit wonky for a moment. It doesn't really matter. So this is what we've got. Name, common name, latitude, longitude, OS grid reference to whatever level of accuracy it's giving. This is coordinate accuracy precision. These are funny looking numbers. This is just to do with the fact that if you have a grid square of a certain size, the maximum possible distance will actually be a weird ratio, because that would be on the diagonal line. So you'll get these things that are to do with like the square root of 2 ratios of those and stuff. So you get these funny coordinates. the year that it happened, the month that it happened in, who recorded it, various stuff about the taxonomy and what the data source is. So next thing I want to do is I'd like to subset this data, and I'm just going to show you an example. I'm going to go for birds because that's what I know about, and oops, AVs, there we go. So that's the start of this. Got a class there. You could go in and just have a look what you've got in here and decide which of these data you're interested in. You could just unselect them and then go in and select which ones sound interesting, just as you wish really. Alternatively, you could bring some more data to this. So the first thing I'm going to do, I think I'll subset this data. So the next is Control-Shift-B. So this is to build a data set. So I'm going to call this AVs, and it will create a subset of that information that just contains the filtered information. Once you've filtered the information, you'll have substantially less records. It's still a huge amount of records actually. You might want to filter it by other criterion, for instance, say you don't want these very low precision data, say that you don't want things that are before a certain date, so we'll go for greater than, what shall I say, going to make it quite a recent date because I could really do with cutting this down quite a long way. And how's that? I'll go with that. So Control-Shift-B again, I go with the same name. You'll see this time it's added a B to show that it's run macro B another time. This is just so that if you're not really sure this is your final data set, you don't have to think about giving it a clever name. Next thing I want to do is to summarize all of this in terms of how many records of how many different species. So press Control-Shift-C to produce this, this species list. So just to show you, that was C compile species list, and this is given a suffix .sl the species list. So some of these are really very numerous, others less so, like this waxwing. Now you might find it a bit of a faff that these are all scientific names. I designed this to be used for a wide variety of taxa, including some that have species that have no common name. So I'm going to go to my bird data, and I'm going to append some of this information to that data to make it a bit more intelligible. So we have some columns here that are highlighted in green. That indicates that they were the last ones that I exported to another spreadsheet, another worksheet. So the way you do this is you click on the top of the column to select it all. You hold down the Control key and you select the others. I'm really going to follow the same example as last time. So I've selected those. Now go to Developer, Macros, and Z, or Control-Shift-Z for easily add data. So now asks, where am I taking the data from? Well, I'm taking it from this sheet. This is the active sheet, bird data. It defaults as using the scientific name, well, it defaults as the first column in here as being the one that it uses to unite the data with the next column of the other sheet. So I'm going for .sl, the species list, and that's names. So you can toggle between the two. For instance, if I was here, oh, scientific name, oh, okay, Now, was it scientific or common name that I was using here? I can't remember. Press the toggle and that moves me over. Ah, it's also a scientific name. So I can see that would work. So press add data. It's probably quite a big data set, might take a little while. There we go. So here we have all of this data. These are BOCC, that's Birds of Conservation Concern, red list birds. These are ones that are conservation priorities for one reason or another. Amber, also conservation priorities, slightly less. Now I need to change that. That's schedule 1. Anyway, so I'm going to show you another macro here, which is one I use quite a lot in my work as a consultant, because it's very useful to be able to compile lots of information about species conservation statuses. So go to macros, go to M, amalgamate data into one column. So it's probably just as easy to run this as it is to show you, to explain it rather. So what happens is it doesn't matter where you select this. Now if I selected here, then everything would get English vernacular name added to the end of this column. But what I'm doing is this macro will look for data in this row. If there is, it will go up and it will read that value, and then if there's another one in here, it will read that value and it will keep adding them, and then it will create a string which it dumps at the end of here. So Kingfisher, it will say Bok 5 Amber and schedule 1. And it doesn't matter how many rows you select, it will do it for the whole length of the table. So there we go. So I don't call this designations because I like to keep some flexibility, and it might be that I'll want instead to call this something else on a different occasion. Oh, my computer's being so slow today. I could really do with getting a better one. So something else I'll want to do is create a symbology on the basis of this data. Right, so I'm not going to do that yet. I'm going to go back to my subsetted data, and I'm going to look for species that I'm actually interested in, because it's a huge amount of data, and the more data you add to it, the longer it will take. And I have a particularly slow computer at the moment, so I'm going to filter these. I'm going to pick out species that I'm interested in. Don't know. Look for some interesting, potentially breeding species. And so on. You just pick out stuff you want to look for. It's really just to show a point. So I now subset that, selected. Now I want to take, actually, you know what, I want to take a list of this subset. Control Shift C. Oh, you know what? Subset the wrong data set there. Yes, I'm going for this one. Control Shift C. There we go, much smaller list. Now I want to add a few details to this, so I go to Developer, Macros, Derive Symbology. So what this has done is it's created a short code for it based on the first two letters of the common and then the specific and the generic names, sticks them together. It will produce a different icon color dependent on where it is in this list, and if you had several that were the same genus, they would have different icon headings, so that you could just discriminate at a glance that they're different. In this case it doesn't, and it's also automatically opened the Control Shift Z easily transfer data, or whatever it was called. It was called something like that. So I want to take this. I'm taking it from AV Select Species List, and I'm moving it to .b, moving it to this. I'm uniting it using the names column and the name column. So add data, and there we go. So I'm not sure how much data we've got in here. Excellent. Now I've got less than 100, which is great from my point of view, because that website uses up to 100. I think you can subscribe to it actually. I really ought to do that. And go to macros. So I've derived symbology. Next I export this worksheet, and it will give a default name for the file, and I will stick it on my desktop. No, not there. Desktop. 10 kilometer AV Select. There we go. So it's now on my desktop. Oh, you know what? I want to do one other thing before I do that. I want to add to this folders KML folder constructor. So basically this does this in a particular order, goes from left to right. So I might want genus and then name. So this is in the wrong order for that at the moment. There is a neat trick where if you press the shift key, you go to the edge of the selected row or column, you can drag it. So I'm going to drag that to there. Now I'm going to select both of these, and I'll create a folder structure, and that will then add to the end of this folder Aegiphalus and then Aegiphalus caudatus. Actually, I'm not going to do that because there are no genera with more than one species in, so I am just going to go for the name, but it was worth doing that just to show how this works. There we go. So to export this, I'm going to export it by the same name and overwrite the original. I think it'll let me do that. Yes, excellent. Okay, so I now have that with folders, which is a much better look. So I'm going to go to Google Earth Tools. No, yeah, Excel to KML. There we go. So from here I browse, go to my most recent one, this one. If it'll have a problem with that file extension. Oh, I'll give it a go, see what happens. View on Google Earth. File name is blank. Yeah, I didn't like that. Okay. Now that's just because I overwrote that. I wonder if you rename these in the browser these days? You can, can't you? Excellent. Okay. There we go. Yes. Yes. Go on then. View on Google Earth, and it should just process that. There you go. Open this file. The computer's been a bit crap. Okay, so I'll get rid of the last one so you can see what it's actually produced here. So these are the species in here. Switch them all off. Let's look at kingfisher. Okay, a few records from there. Some from here as well. Let's have a look. 2016, front of the new hide. So you get the idea. Once you have a file like this, you can export it to your phone and use it in Google Earth as a phone app, or if you want something that will cache online a bit better, more reliably, you can use maps.me. I've made videos about this kind of thing as well, but suffice it to say that it's pretty good actually to have things in Google Earth, and then when you find a set of things that you like, copy them to another collection and then export them, and then you've got your own little itinerary for a trip. You can also do things like look for parking locations. So this is street view. If you drag the little man onto the map, it'll show you all these different roads that you could maybe search for parking for. See if there's parking down here or something. That's ground level view. Yeah, computer's being a bit slow at the moment. That's not where I dragged it. Anyway, you can look for parking places, and then you can add your own pins, and you can add those to your itineraries. For instance, decided I'm going to park there. I don't know. So there are other things you can do here as well. A little bit more sophisticated and a little bit more long-winded, and so in some ways I'll show you those. So let's take the example of some bees. Now you can make a targeted search for a particular species. You press Control and select various species that you're interested in. You can do it this way, or you could have like a checklist of ones that you've seen, and then you could filter it, and then you're left with the ones you haven't seen, and then you select those ones. And I'm just going for a random selection now, and what I'm going to do now is run this macro, your custom search URL. Run this. So by default it looks for records that are 20 years before the current date and onwards, and the grid size at 10 meters. It's looking for accurate records, not widely spaced ones, but you can increase that size if you want to. You can increase or decrease however you want to, and this option here is to import WKT. Now a WKT is a well-known text file, and what that is basically a means of trying to show like a polygon on a map. It's something that you can use to choose what vicinity you want your records for. So I have one in here which is a 100-kilometer radius around Edinburgh. So I'm going to open that. It tells you that's what it's going to put in. And then you basically, this is all selected, you copy it all, and wrong one, you go to NBN Atlas, which I've already logged into, and I paste that into the URL at the top. Now it's possible that I won't find any of these records in the area, in which case this will have been a bit of a poor demonstration. It's just picking random names. It can take a little while to run these queries as well. Oh, no, that didn't work. I get this sometimes when I run it the first time. Not altogether sure why that happens. You know what, I'm going to do it again. See if I get a better result. See, they say that Madness is doing the same thing twice and expecting different results, but actually no, it's pretty nearly any IT issue that you ever have. So, I've got 8 results for these. Overview and download. So, download. So, occurrence records or species checklist. I'm going for occurrence records. I'm going to call this Edinburgh 100 kilometer bees, and stick with the CSV format. Industry, reason, public, accept licensing, go to next. It's very polite, it thanks you for your download and tells you to expect an email. Sometimes the emails can take a little while to arrive for a big search. This one was very prompt. So you have 2 URLs. You have the URL which was used to create that data search, and you have a shorter URL which is a reference to where you go to extract that data. So in I go. Oh please, no more news. I don't want the news. Why is this not pasting? Copy. There we go. Now it will appear in my downloads. There we go. Oh yes. This just means I need to go in through 7-zip, which is what I use to extract zipped files. Some people have them built into their operating systems. Don't really know why I don't, but I'm not a computer wizard. It's been so slow at the moment. So, 7-zip. Oh, it seems to have downloaded a few times. So, I'm going to extract that, and I tend to extract anything that's temporary like this to my desktop, because then I can see it's on my desktop. Yes to all, just replace all of them. It's fine. You get 3 different files with these. You get one that contains citations, I think one that tells you what all the headers are, and one which contains the actual data, and it's only really the actual data that I use. Let's there we go. Go back to my desktop, and Edinburgh 100 kilometer bees. Open this up. So much clutter. This is some of the different attempts I've made to record this tutorial. You never know when you'll have one form of IT problem or another. So, seems we've got 3 different species, 3 of the 4 different species we selected, I think. Go to move or copy, take it to the NBN data. Okay. Come on, shouldn't take long. Here we go. So this is the data. Control Shift A. Oh, come on. developer, macros, run, yes, yes, yes. There we go, so this is the data I'm after. Hypothetically, let's say I want the page number in my reference book, and to add that to bees A name by name, yes. Wrong way around. My bees reference to Edinburgh bees, add data, page number, right. Control Shift, oh hang on, okay, I need a species list, that's right. Control Shift C, species list, Control Shift D. Now it's going to copy this over to, so from the species list to my bees data, and notice it became AZ when you added something to it. And I want to create a folder structure. For the sake of just example again, I'm going to drag this over here, select those, create a folder structure, and export this to my desktop. 100 kilometer bees, save it over the top of that, go in to Excel to KML, browse, oh no, this one. So this probably seems quite involved and quite maybe a bit labour intensive, but I really do think that for what it creates, it's very worthwhile. It's got errors in it. Don't know what the errors are. Let's have a look. Didn't mean to do that. So I'm going to load that data. Date modified. It's the last thing that I added there. What rename? I'm not sure why that was. Whatever. Open. So you can check it for errors. Let's see what it says. No errors found this time. Okay, let's go with view on Google Earth then. Give it another good try. Oh yes, you need to reselect it first. Oh good. Seems that it's now in the right place. Here we go. So with a 100-mile radius, I have these various species. Grey banded mining bee, etc, etc. Oh, that was from a different file there. Anyway, I hope that's been useful to you. Please feel free to share this tutorial with anyone else who might be interested in using it. It's not perfect. It will have a few bugs in there from time to time. Things will run quite slowly, might be a bit annoying, but I think it's worth the effort. It's really helpful to be able to use spreadsheets with Google Earth, so certainly that EarthPoint website is very handy. And I think this tool takes some of the misery out of planning itineraries. Certainly being able to use Google Earth and look for parking places and plan itineraries on this basis, that field outings, is something that would appeal to field naturalist events and potentially for local taxonomy experts trying to find examples of rare species in an area. So I've got various pieces of data in here that potentially helpful for people trying to prioritize how they go about looking for stuff. So say you can add your own page numbers from your own chosen reference texts. Things like how many grid squares in the UK they're present at might give you an example of things that are comparatively localized. Edinburgh values for light, moisture, alkalinity, nitrogen level, salinity, have flowering times. So if you're looking for things that were only in bloom in March, for instance, you could sort by that. The idea is people can add as much extra data as they want. I've got some nice ones for hoverflies that include things like can you identify it with a glass by naked eye or with a microscope. So it's useful for a beginner to decide, what should I look for in the field, what would I need to bring back, and all this kind of stuff. Square count, frequent, widespread, local, etc., etc. Anyway, you get the idea. Thank you very much for your time.